So good evening, everyone, and welcome to this evening's webinar, and thank you for making the time to join us. Tonight's topic is why it is more important than ever for practices to look at introducing further digitization into their practice. I'm going to start off by introducing you to the hosts. My name is Yvonne. I'm a product executive at Healthbridge. I've been part of the Healthbridge team for the past 15 years. And I look after product, marketing, and training teams.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Quillen Govender. I am fortunate to work with Yvonne and hopefully be your demo master today and showing you some of the tools that we've got available to make your practice live.
Cool. Thanks, Quillen. And maybe before I hand over to Quillen to really demo myMPS and some of the new functionality that the team has introduced to really help practices through these challenging times, I wanted to use this opportunity to share some of the insights that we've gained when we look at what's happened with patient volumes over the COVID period and the impact that has had on practices. So Quillen, if you can just let me know that you can see my screen.
Yep, perfect.
Okay, cool. So what you're seeing here is since the start of COVID, we've really been monitoring our claims that our clients have been sending through to us, which are the equivalent of patient volumes. And what you see is the significant dip that happened in patient volumes when we were under strict lockdown during the lockdown stage 5, and certainly what's happened as lockdown has been relaxed to stage 3. What we have seen that even though lockdown has been relaxed, patient volumes have really stabilized at about 70% of pre-lockdown levels. And what we know is that certainly for medical service providers, what this translates to is a direct and a negative impact on patient revenues. We've had many of our clients inform us that they've either gone into early retirement and have closed down their practice. Many practices are shutting down temporarily as they themselves get infected with COVID. Practices are having to lay off some of their staff members, and certainly this is challenging time for medical service providers out there. The claim volumes that you're seeing on screen at the moment is across all our specialities. So this is a holistic view across our GPs, our allieds, our optoms, and specialist segments. What we do see, and I'm going to show you the next slide, is when we take, there we go, is when we specifically hone in at allieds and auxiliary providers, and we've done this specifically when we looked at the medical service providers that have joined us for our webinar, is another very worrying trend, which is in the last three weeks, we're seeing a further dip in patient volumes. And really at this stage, we hypothesize and we suspect that this is starting to happen as with the increase in number of infections throughout South Africa. What you're finding is that patients are getting even more worried about visiting their medical service providers. This trend is predominantly seen in the allied segments, and a similar picture also in the specialist space, where we know certainly a lot of patients are avoiding, or even specialists are unable to do elective procedures. And what we wanted to share with you tonight is really from our perspective how we see technology playing a part in helping medical service providers be able to survive and continue to cope during these challenging times. And it's really around 3 areas. And certainly when Quellen demos myMPS and the new functionality that the team is looking to introduce, it will be around these 3 areas. And the key theme is how important we think that it is for medical service providers to remain connected with their patients during these challenging times. The first one is really keeping your patients informed. And what do we mean by this? Letting them know, be it via SMS, via email, via a website if you've got a website, social media platforms if you have that available, and informing patients of how your practice is choosing to operate during these challenging times. Be it that with things like if you're offering telehealth, or if you're doing things like a pre-screening, how you prefer a patient to actually reach out to you and make appointments with your practice. Informing patients of the measures that you have put in place at your practice in terms of hygiene and social distancing, just keeping your patients informed. The other key area is looking at introducing telehealth. We introduced our telehealth solution in March, and we've certainly seen a very positive uptake in the number of clients that have signed up and that are using telehealth. We know it's new in South Africa. When we look at the States, we know that pre-COVID, there's stats like about 18% of medical service providers were making use of telehealth. And now we see that number increasing up to about 48%, so certainly a greater adoption. But again, in South Africa, though it's a new method of being able to consult with patients, it has a lot of benefits when patients are avoiding coming into the physical practice. It certainly enables medical service providers to continue to consult and get paid for the service that they're offering patients. And really the other area, and this is something that everyone that's joined us this evening is quite familiar with, you're our clients, you're already using myMPS, is to continue to benefit from cloud-based technology like myMPS, which empowers both the medical service provider and staff to be able to continue to operate remotely, for the medical service provider to continue to be able to provide the care, and certainly for staff, even if they get if they pick up COVID, that they're also able to continue to do work like admin, very valuable and important admin. And so that's really from my side, from an intro perspective. I'm going to just stop sharing, and maybe before I hand over to Quellen, I'm just going to remind you of some housekeeping in terms of if you've got any questions that you want to ask us during the webinar, please make use of the Q&A icon at the bottom of the screen. What I'll do is I'll keep track of the questions that come through, and I'll interrupt Quellen during the myMPS demo. Also, at the end of the webinar, we are going to share a survey with you, and we'd really appreciate your input. Laureen is also going to be emailing out the webinar early tomorrow morning, should you want to go back and have a look at any particular area. And if there are additional questions that pop into your mind later this evening or at any stage, you're more than welcome to pop those through to webinar@healthbridge.co.za. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Quellen to really demo the myMPS system and the new functionality that we've introduced.
Thanks, Yvonne. I think that picture that you painted is real, and I think that the clients that are with us are in that boat. So hopefully, the two things that I want to get out of this session and land with the clients is fundamentally how do we enable their practice for dealing with these scenarios, and ultimately how simple the solutions that we're going to show them today can really change that picture that you showed us. So I'm going to present my screen.
I'll let you know when I can see it. Yep, on screen, Quellen.
Perfect, thank you. So walking through the journey of MPS, just for navigation, I know we have about 20 odd clients on the view, but looking at MPS and the layout, the first thing that you land on is obviously the calendar. And really we built a functionality that I'm going to show you called telehealth and clinical notes that's driven off the calendar and just managing your diary. So we have the calendar. As you can see, we do have a patient that's booked in here, and we have one in the waiting room. And just to note, how does this process work? So just to go to the basics, we are today at 1842, so let's book in client. And really what I want to show you here is, let's make a booking to Mr. Allied Admin. And call him Mr. Healthbridge Demo, and we'll make this a regular consult. Okay, so fundamentally, what does the screen show you? It allows you to book Mr. Healthbridge Demo, who's our patient today. We are booking him under the physio practice or a chiro, so we just change this to an occupational therapist. And here we can fundamentally book in Mr. Healthbridge Demo to see one of our providers at the practice. Okay. Just going to go back to Mr. Allied. We will save this. In this booking, we are looking at a real-time understanding of Mr. Healthbridge Demo. We are going to be checking for these procedure codes and whether this client has the funds that's really available, which is really integrated into our calendar called the benefit check. Okay, so Mr. Healthbridge Demo, he's here on the calendar. He's waiting for us at 6:45. We will check this patient into the waiting room. Apologies. And as you can see on the far right-hand side, the waiting room kind of displays the two patients that are waiting for this specific provider called Demo Allied. We have Healthbridge Demo and we have PJ Fengler. In PJ Fengler, just to bring in the telehealth, Mr. PJ Fengler has been booked in for a video appointment. This icon on the right-hand side basically shows me that the patient is waiting for me, and in this telehealth booking, we have booked PJ Fengler in for 7:15 p.m. Fengler has already received his email. He has received an SMS with this video link. The patient does not have to click on anything or download any additional software other than the email that gets triggered to him or SMS in anticipation for this. So I'll just jump.
And Quillen, if I can just highlight that, that is a very important point that you just made, which is how simple, and I think you're going to demo it, it is for the patient, one for the admin staff or a medical service provider to be able to actually book that appointment, to select video or telephone, and that automatically triggers both an email and SMS with just a simple link that you click on that then will bring up the telehealth video or virtual consult without having to download any application, any additional applications. It's both simple for the medical service provider and the patient.
You're spot on. So in terms of the booking, we'll just show you exactly how the telehealth solution works. And then we can also change this Healthbridge Demo should the client be running late or you really want to do a face-to-face or over the phone. We can change this booking to telehealth. So let's jump on. You can click this. Mr. Fengler is waiting for us. So we will click on the link. Hi doc, thanks for setting this up. Awesome service. So the patient has left me a message. I will join this consult. Let me know if you can see my screen.
Something's coming up.
Okay. I think my video, because I'm on Zoom, it is double booking me on the video.
Okay.
But basically, Richard, the patient on the other end, is there. He's waiting for us to consult. I'll just leave a message to say, I'm having video connection issues, apologies, and the patient will get that. So that's just how the telehealth video connection works. The patient has responded to say all good. Some other functionality that actually works on here is allowing you to share that screen. So I'm going to share this specific screen and show the patient what I'm looking at, discussing some of the keynotes and some of his body charts, some of his previous history. It just really helps you to engage with that patient as if he's sitting in front of you. We'll call you in. Perfect. So that's the telehealth. Apologies for the video. I think my video, because it's on Zoom, Yvonne, apologies for that.
No problem.
Let's close that. And that's fundamentally how it's that easy to get into telehealth. Yvonne did mention what happens with the patient. When you make the booking, as I did for Healthbridge demo, this is a regular consult. If I change this to a video consult, it automatically becomes a telehealth booking, and we will save that accordingly. Healthbridge demo is automatically been changed to a video appointment, and that patient will be receiving an SMS or an email or both, reminding them of the time, and there's some basic due diligence of being prepared for that meeting, making sure you have connection issues. If you're having any video issues, and how to deal with it, so the patient is really equipped for that appointment at that time. And that's the telehealth solution. Very easy, very slick, all integrated, driven from the calendar. You have the chance of looking at a benefit check to understand if the patient needs to settle that bill with you, if he has any funds, and fundamentally manage your waiting room in terms of the next patient. Okay. Moving on to the second key thing that we've added during this COVID period is really how do we get to see our patients if my files are in my practice and I really want to flatten the curve. So we've introduced the concept called clinical notes, and basically how that works here is you can access your account. So for this one, I'm going to use Healthbridge demo again. So I'm just going to bring up this patient's view. I've got two screens. I'll just make this a little bigger for you guys. So this is Mr. Healthbridge demo. It gives me a generic overview of his health. He suffers from hypertension, his current history. Patient was driving on the highway, saw the dog, stopped, and obviously the dog bit her. No other injuries, and her basic height is 177 and a BMI is 26. So that's just some general medical history. Key things to note is who edited this last. So if there's more providers in your practice, you'll be able to see here who made the last edit on this file. Okay, so navigating through, she's 39 years old, female, and this is an overview of clinical. It just shows you the general medical history. You can continue to add more information on this file as you see Mr. Healthbridge demo. On the top right, we have work and hobbies. So she is a medical researcher. She loves sewing, cooking, and nature, and walk with dogs. And last updated at 2 o'clock today. Okay. The next concept that we've introduced is the journal progress notes. So fundamentally, what we've introduced here is allowing you, one, to make quick notes on that file, and two, to have quick follow-ups for previous encounters. So going into the general progress note, we have two components in this. One, we have a general body chart that runs with this patient for the history that you've seen them. And you can see that this patient had that hand injury, was dealing with some otomelia and some ROM, and basically some reassessments that we've done over the course of the 29th and 26th of June. If you're looking at it, this is specifically a physio consult. This general progress note can be according to a social worker or a psychologist or occupational therapist in terms of your general notes that you keep on that patient. So this client's been with us 3 times. We've done some reassessments. We've looked at some of the flex and extension exercises in terms of degrees. We've looked at pre and post some of the stuff that we've done, and obviously advise the client to continue their treatment in terms of tracking otomelia. So that's just the general progress note. Key things to note here, how to engage with that patient. So where we see this working really well is quick tracking of progress notes, emailing to the patient, and that's automatic. It's sent from your email address from this practice, and it has tracking of that encounter. This template is pre-populated, and you hit the send button, or you can refer this to another provider or a specialist for the consult. What does it look like? So on the email side, you can print if you're back at your practice and you have somebody at the front desk, you can print this and the client can collect it as they go out. Just gives them the overview of this encounter, as well as the running history of what we've done on this client, quick progress format. So that's the progress note. So you have two functions, email and print, and how to use it. You can reset anything that you have drawn in here. Which is forearm. I can reset that last piece. I don't like where it was. So really, once you've saved this, those changes are saved. Okay. Going down into actually a clinical consult, we've added a clinical consult. So I've built one here just for the purposes of the demo to really show you what you can do with it. So we have Mr. Allied Admin, who's the provider. The main complaint for Healthbridge demo was hand evaluation, and when you hit the Add New button, this is basically what you get to see from a clinical note. This note is obviously in draft mode. I haven't completed it, so it's a very important concept of draft, which allows you to edit and go back. Once you've completed it and save, this will be a stored record for medical and legal purposes. Again, it has the last edited date in terms of who made changes on this file or this encounter. Gives you automatically the date of service, basic overview of the patient, their main complaint, what we said was hand evaluation, and who the provider is. In our first version of what you see today, we've loaded the SOAP notes template, which is the generic methodology for consultation, just aligning to what you guys see at Discovery with kind of the Doctor Connect and their SOAP format. We've used a similar methodology to track progress with your patients. So in that SOAP template, we have loaded this picture, which is the body chart, as you guys have seen in the previous general progress note. But if the patient's coming in for left shoulder injury, you can add and move this as and when you please. But of course, we already know that this client, I've built this already. I'm just coming back at the end of the day. It's 7 o'clock at night. I really want to finish this note on this client, so we're going to finish up on hand evaluation. Just going to reset that.
And Quellen, a question I think that gets often asked is, can you customize your the SOAP notes?
So it's a good question. I think just in terms of how our team works, we work on Agile. So for the first version of what you see today, we've loaded a generic template. Healthbridge will be loading more generic templates per discipline. So this one is a very generic across all allieds. But as we dip into the physio world, the psychologist world, social therapists, occupational therapists, we will have loaded a generic template for a physiotherapist, and then another version of that release, we would allow them and obviously our clients to customize that form according to what they need with their own picture. They can put a knee here. If they want to use the body chart, if they want to put the spine or the foot for a podiatrist, they can. And fundamentally, they can change this text box in terms of the layout. So it's coming soon. We will be able to customize this form according to how you consult today.
And Quellen, whilst you're answering questions, just another two questions that have been posed to us. The one is, and I think it was when we were looking at the general notes, is there space to put the time of the consult, starts and finish?
Yes, there is. So in terms of timing of that note and tracking, start and end time, we've loaded this in terms of last edited. So we could have a start and end time running as a tracker here. So definitely there is space for it. So I hope I'll answer that question right now. I've edited it on the 1556. We've checked with HPCSA, looking at the date of service in terms of when you actually saw that patient and looking at when you last made an edit for that consult. That is the true reflection of, I think, for medical and legal purposes. So yes, you can add a start and end date here.
Okay.
Second question.
And the second question is there any way of using this with a stylus like an Apple Pencil, or or is it only by typing info? For
this first version, we've taken the typing. We've looked at some of the data and some of our users, and it's this application is a web-based application. In terms of what you probably would see next down the line would maybe be not so much typing, but down the line of speech to text. So it could maybe take your version of your iPad and convert it into words, and then you wouldn't have to type as much. In terms of stylus, we are not in the current vicinity of the roadmap looking at a stylus, but in terms of our other clinical EMR strong offering, which is currently sitting for the GPs, that team is really working on stylus and iPad to allow you to actually make some notes.
And then just going back to before you continue, I think the first question that I posed, the clients come back saying we need to indicate the exact time of the consult, not just the date. So I think that's probably a new requirement that we'd have to add in.
Cool. Noted. So the time of the consult would be obviously pulling from the calendar with the date of service. That we track, we just don't show it. As I said, Agile, we could put it on here and put in the actual calendar date and time of the appointment.
Because we've got, like you said, we've got that timestamp. So it's 100%. Just bringing it through.
Spot on. Okay, following down the SOAP methodology, we've added in a list of, sorry, my Grammarly is on. It's busy fixing all my grammar. We've added basically the patient complaint. You can continue to type here for this patient. I've loaded some notes. Patient says she can't brush her hair. Patient restricts her work, needs to take breaks often. So that's basically what the patient is saying. You guys do this every day. You kind of know your notes. Just to give you an idea, behavior systems, they're constant. Elevation does nothing to the pain. So some of your objective tests that you do, how does it work in a 24-hour pattern? You know, it's severe over evenings. These are the type of questions that you would be asking Mr. Healthbridge demo here of how it works. And really then running into the assessment part where you can do, you know, some of the posture stuff, the tests for skin sensitization and functional limitations. So you've got options of how to, you know, capture your notes. These are detailed notes. Some providers don't like to write so much. Quick notes, little pictures, little instructions. Yvonne asked in the beginning, can I customize these forms? Yes, you can. Maybe, you know, some of them prefer to do tick boxes or tick here, tick there, just on the speed. Those will all be allowed in terms of this form and how you customize it. For the purposes of this first release, we've given the opportunity to store some of these notes that you track, whether you keep it in Microsoft Word and put it into a file for legal purposes. The main aim of what we're trying to achieve is to keep your patient file access on the system with your billing all in one. And I think that's why we've went with this first version. Okay, so that's the SOAP note. It covers subjective, the objective assessment, as well as the plan. In here, we've got a day one plan, we've got a short-term plan, long-term, and some of the home exercises that we'd like this patient to do. I suppose they've seen patients today, so I'm not going to make it another consult, but fundamentally that's how the template works. As I mentioned, there's the save for draft. I haven't updated any fields, so the system alerts you to say you haven't made any changes. So technically, the save for draft, it's already saved. Save. This is the draft mode. It's edited. I saved it at 1901. So again, it updates in terms of the time when I last made the change. But now that I'm comfortable with this note, I'm happy. It's 7 o'clock at night. this client is good, I am going to trigger a captured invoice. So
maybe Quillen, before you continue, just some further questions.
sure.
One is, can this platform facilitate further medical tests like blood tests or a radiology modality?
So right now, in terms of our blood test and pathology results, we do have a sister product that facilitates that. It's a strong EMR platform that allows to receive pathology results for medical tests. On this platform, in terms of the market that we're currently serving, not in the vicinity in the next 6 months, but as I said, our sister product does have it. It can facilitate the likes of pathology. And I'll take it up with Yvonne in the business to prioritize pathology and blood work.
Certainly the one thing that you do have as part of the roadmap is the ability to then upload, if you do receive a path form, if the doctor wanted to upload and scan it and upload it to the patient file. That's horizon, in your near horizon.
Correct. So if you do send a request to a path result and they do send it back, either Lancet emails you, the old way of doing it, you can load that patient's result onto the file and have access to it in this consult. And that's what's coming in the near future.
And the other path request, and now at this stage it's just for GPs that we're able to receive into Healthbridge Clinical, which is the EMR product that you've referred to.
100%.
Then
Okay.
other question, when seeing patients in hospital, we don't really book them in before. Is it possible to use the notes as we see them or retrospectively?
Yes. So this is one way of doing it. So through the calendar, if you are, and I'll just kind of finish up I'll save this now. So let me go back. So I've driven this behavior off the calendar. Should you be in the hospital and you want to see Rudy De Silva, you want to see Rudy Discovery, you're there waiting for him, you've actually seen him, you want to access his file, you can continue doing that how you see fit. So you can add a new clinical note, you can take this one and you can copy and create a new one immediately, which I think for the hospital consultation, you see the same patient for the same treatment morning and night. I've just copied and create this previous note that I made and everything's pre-populated and I can continue the journey to say phase 2 or day 2 testing. And this again is saved for draft. You can come back after your hospital visit and really go back and go and update that note retrospectively. So that's how we see the hospital claims working, the hospital visits, the AM and PM, the morning and night. We've got a very, very fast function of copy and create. So the first time that you make that note on that patient, you can copy and create that for the next day and the next day and the day after. Okay, so I hope that answers that question. Are there any more?
No, you can continue.
Okay. So since we're on Rudy, I'm happy with this note. I'm happy that I've captured everything that I need here. His body chart is deep, sharp anterior pain. I'm happy that everything's there. I will then trigger a captured invoice. And from here, basically what we're transitioning to is, I've seen this patient, I've made some clinical notes, I need to do his billing. So this is of course, I didn't book him in through the calendar. So if you're a hospital patient, you wouldn't have come through the calendar. You would have to obviously select the treating provider that's actually seeing Rudy. And once I've selected the physiotherapist, we have defaulted this procedure code for the likes of billing. What we are adding in next month's release is a thing called templates. So these billing templates will really be, again, a speed factor to your process, which will allow you to kind of select pre-selected procedures, call it a knee replacement or an ankle or a follow-up psychometric test, podiatrist foot examination. and really select some of those procedures of what you'd like to be part of that category. And once you select one of these templates or favorites, it will pre-populate. So what does that look like? I haven't loaded it for Allied, but what I have done is loaded it for the GP. So this screen is a GP. Mr. Paul Fengler, seeing him, here's a procedure code. And because I've created these templates, I'd like to do a removal of a foreign body or foreign eye. Clicked on that. Here's all your billing instructions with your ICD-10 codes.
Maybe, Quillen, whilst you're doing that, I know that we often get asked this, is how does a medical service provider go about creating these templates?
Okay, so it's a very good question. What's coming in we work in releases, so every month we release a piece of functionality. This functionality for templates would be, there'd be a search button here and an edit button, which will allow you to then create your own template and call it ECG stress 1233, and really assign procedure line consumables, medicines. Obviously this is a GP practice, so for physios you'll be procedures, for occupational therapists you put your procedures, you really name what they are, and you save a diagnosis code, and every time you click on one of these named categories, it will be stored here for your billing templates. The power of that is that your billing instructions have already been pre-populated. The pricing is automatic according to Paul Fengler. Mr. Paul Fengler right now is discovery, so all these prices are discovery related, and you are optimally billing for this consult straight after you have done his note. So if we're perfect to bill first, we've seen some scenarios, and I'll show that to you when I check out this patient. Where the system prompts you to bill this client, and if you've got a template made, you can fundamentally bill immediately and then go back and finish off your clinical notes. So let's just save this for later, and why that's key is if you're in the hospital or if you're in your rooms, you haven't finished billing this patient, or if you have admin staff that manage your practice, I've just saved that billing instruction, or I've passed it down to my practice manager or my billing instruction manager to really push this claim through. This is the one that we just did. It's the ECG, actually I lied, it's the removal of foreign body. It's the template that we selected. I am happy with this claim. I've checked it, and we will submit. Sorry, I've got, it's an old system, but the claim would go through and it will get processed. So I just got a server interruption. Just going to jump back to the Allied demo. So for submitting purposes, I haven't submitted. And that's what happens on the Allied. So I've submitted that claim. It's for Rudy. It's 230 Rand. Gives me the breakdown of what I submitted, and basically it shows me how much I've invoiced, what's medical aid liable for, and what's patient liable for. Just going to close that. So that's kind of just to recap. We've booked in a patient, we've checked them in, we've had a look at the telehealth consult, we've had a look at capturing clinical notes, whether you're using the calendar or whether you're in the hospital and accessing the file. You can search for the patient here, you can access the file. But what this system does, if you do not like to do clinical notes or prefer to do clinical notes after the consult, you can check out the system. Then once flags you that you have an invoice for this client, you will then go to the invoice screen. Similarly, there would be templates here based on Mr. Psychologist of what he's created. He has 86205. It's a consultation. I'm happy with this consult, and you would submit. Again, I haven't put a diagnosis code, so I'm just going to put something on likes of it. Very important, and that claim has been submitted. Mr. Fengler is out of the waiting room. Next patient is Healthbridge demo. And so the process continues. So I think I've covered it. The system has told me that I've invoiced Paul Fengler here. So from a collections perspective, as well as the receptionist understands that there's nothing outstanding for this patient, you've invoiced or haven't invoiced. And I think those are the two fundamental tools of how you could use both telehealth for managing and seeing patients, whether it's for follow-ups, and fundamentally using clinical notes and adding to this patient file, and billing all in one.
Cool. I'm just having a look to see, one of the questions that came through the chat was, is the webinar being recorded? Yes, it is. It is being recorded, and our marketing team will share that with the attendees tomorrow morning. I think that's when it will be going out. We did have another question, which is, can we prescribe through this new platform?
It's a good question. If I'm understanding, how do I activate these tools that's already on the system? So just to navigate, on the top right, we've got a really cool feature called the add-on store. So in the add-on store, when you click on that, it basically gives you extra functionality like what you've seen for telehealth and like what you've seen for clinical notes for allies. I've already activated this for the system. If I deactivate it, I've already got links that's automatically be sent out to patients. The system prompts you that, do you really want to deactivate the service knowing that your clients have these links available? And similarly for clinical notes, I have deactivated, do you really want to proceed? So the system really wants, kind of reminds you that we have these functions. How do I activate? For the purposes of bulk SMS, I will deactivate bulk. It's as simple. We've made it all in the store. You click on the activate button. You review some of the terms of service. If you're happy with those terms of service, you select that box, you proceed, and bulk SMS is shown. I think one of the key features that I wanted to finish off the demo with is, how do you communicate to your patients knowing that you have telehealth? And Yvonne mentioned it in the beginning, so that's why I've chosen bulk SMS. So I just want to quickly show that to you, if you don't mind.
Yeah, maybe just before you do that, I think this question was around, if I understand it correctly, can you prescribe? So can you send script requests through to a pharmacy?
So scripts, it is on the roadmap. It is something that we're working on. The two quick tools that we've added is, one, let's get you capturing notes digitally and not be so stuck to the practice and that file cabinet. And two, seeing your patients and following up. We've got referral letters. We've got sick notes, which is a prescription that can be sent to pharmacy, and we've got sick notes specifically, so if you want to be booked off for work. So those are the three communication letters or platforms that you will have access to over the course of the next couple of months that we'll be adding to the system. So very important, a very good question. This is a service. So clinical notes, what you're signing up for here right now is having access to clinical notes, as well as all the enhancements that we'll be adding, like a document storage for you to upload files, to upload videos, to upload patient engagements, or x-rays or path labs. That gives you that opportunity to do that. And secondly, to really send referral letters, sick notes, and prescriptions to your patients via that email and print function that I showed you, like the progress note.
Cool. Sorry, I broke your train, which was you were going to show bulk SMS to communicate.
Yeah. Quickly, I know we booked for 7:15, so I'll show you. So how do we communicate this great stuff to my patients, especially the telehealth for the psychologists that are on that are engaging? What we've got is a bulk SMS and email function. Here you can submit a message, you can send to your patients, you can look at medical aid, you can talk to Discovery, and basically it'll tell you that I only have 3 patients that have email addresses and one with cell phone number, and you can type for your follow-up. We'll be loading templates or allowing you to customize your bulk email message and templates in the next release, which is next month. This will really allow you to then save these templates and send. You can attach a file that you receive from Discovery. can attach that stuff that's kind of stored in your Dropbox or on your documents, and basically you send that email and it will go out to those 3 patients that are on here. Similarly for bulk SMS. So
and I know that, yeah, at the start of COVID, we certainly sent out some guidelines to practices with some templates or wording suggestions, like I mentioned right up front, in terms of what the practice is putting in place to manage COVID. And I know that we had a great uptake from our clients who used that wording to then send through to all their patients.
Cool. In closing, just to end off the process, how's my practice performing? So this is our reports. I've just generated the report for today. How busy was my calendar? This shows me that these are all my providers in my practice. I had 1 appointment here for Mr. Allied Admin. If I go down to him, it was a video consult checked in for patient Healthbridge demo, and there was no benefit check done because the patient's not covered for it. So that's just the reporting element of it. There's also the claim. You can look at claims report that we did today. So I'm just going to go today, just generate this on PDF to show. He submitted this claim, so it's a little bit small. Let me just do that. Medical claim, we asked for that amount, it's still sitting in medical liable. So really just to help you understand what you've billed, you've sent 2 claims. It was 230 Rand for this claim and 997 Rand for the psychologist claim. These are the responses. So really just tracking your business and how those claims are doing and managing that collection book during COVID. So, yeah, I think that's pretty much it. We've introduced the help center and the online chatbot. So if you do have any questions, you do struggle with some of the functionality, I advise you to use the help center. It's got some content, it's got some videos, FAQs. It will really help you navigate the system as well as anything new that we released.
I'm just looking, there's no other questions that have come through, but I'm surprised that one hasn't come through, which is how much does the new clinical notes add on to myMPS cost?
That's a good question. Right now it's a service. We understand during the COVID times, and what we're trying to do as Healthbridge is really what the picture that Yvonne shared about, really improving your business. So what we've done for the clinical notes, we have made it free to use. This is a service that you can use, and all the benefits that we'll be adding over the next 2 months, you'll be having access to that for free. So right up till the end of September, the service is free, and thereafter it's based on a package model. So depending on how big your practice is, we have different types of billing engines. So for a single provider, it would cost you 149 Rand, for 2 providers 249, and so forth. If you do not like the clinical notes after you've used it, you can deactivate it, and all your previous notes that you've made during this time for September will be in a view and email and print mode only. So you wouldn't be able to add new notes, but you still have access to those notes because those are your patient records.
Great. Thanks, Quillen. I am aware we've used up our 45 valuable minutes. So if there aren't any further questions, I just want to remind everyone that the webinar was recorded. Lorena, I also have another suggestion, because we had a hiccup with showing medical service providers how the telehealth could work. My suggestion is, if we, with the email that we send out, the webinar link, just also include the link to the video of the telehealth webinar, and at least like that, the attendees would be able to see exactly how it will work. So we've got a very cool video that we'll share with you to show that. There is a quick survey that I think, Laureen, you're going to pop in the chat, if I'm not mistaken, or alternatively we'll be circulating that after the webinar. And again, like I mentioned, we'd really appreciate your feedback. And then, oh, I see, thanks, Laureen. So if it is in the chat functionality, again, yeah, if you could click on it and just share your feedback with us. And then, like I mentioned, and Quillen said, the team does work in an agile mode, And certainly this is our first release of clinical notes, making it available to allied professionals. If you have any suggestions or any input that you'd like to add or something you'd like to see, please send that through to webinar@healthbridge.co.za. There's new functionality coming out on a per monthly basis, and then certainly the team can take that into consideration when looking at the roadmap. That's it from our side. Again, big thank you for joining us this evening, and we certainly wish everyone a great evening, and also that everyone is keeping safe and healthy during these very difficult and trying times. Thank you. That's it from our side.
Thanks everybody. Thanks for your time.
Cheers. Good evening. Bye.